You know, there's something absolutely crucial that nobody tells you about spiritual awakening. Something that could save you years of pain and misunderstanding if you grasp it early enough. When you begin to wake up, when you start seeing reality more clearly than those around, there's a natural impulse, almost irresistible, to share what you're discovering. You want to tell people about your insight, your experiences, your newfound clarity. You believe that sharing your truth will inspire others, will help them wake up too, will create connection and understanding. But what actually happens is often the complete opposite. Your sharing creates suspicion, triggers defensiveness, invites attack, and leaves you feeling more isolated than before. And this is not because people are bad or because you're explaining it wrong. It's because there are certain things about spiritual awakening that must remain private, must be protected, must be kept sacred in silence. And if you reveal them prematurely or to the wrong people, you will pay a price that's far higher than you can imagine. If this resonates with your experience, if you've already learned this lesson the hard way, please give this video a thumbs up and share your wisdom in the comments below. And if you want to understand the deeper mechanics of awakening, subscribe to this channel for more insights like this. Now, I'm not suggesting you become secretive or dishonest or start living a double life. What I'm suggesting is that there's profound wisdom in discernment, in knowing what to share and what to protect, in understanding that not everything that's true needs to be spoken, and not everyone who asks deserves access to your inner world. The awakened person learns to hold certain things in sacred silence, not because they're ashamed or afraid, but because they understand that some truths cannot be transmitted through words. Some experiences cannot be shared with those who haven't earned the right to hear them. And some aspects of your journey are simply too precious to expose to the unconscious masses. The first thing you must never reveal is the depth of your spiritual experience, especially the mystical one. When you have a genuine awakening experience, when the veil drops and you see reality as it actually is, when you touch something infinite and eternal within yourself, it's the most profound thing that's ever happened to you. It changes everything, and naturally, you want to tell someone, anyone, everyone. You want to share this extraordinary discovery. But here's what will happen if you do. Most people will think you've lost your mind. They'll look at you with concern or pity or barely concealed alarm. They'll suggest you see a therapist or get more sleep or stop meditating so much. They'll explain away your experience using psychological terminology or dismiss it as delusion or hallucination. And even worse, some people will pretend to understand when they don't, will nod along while secretly thinking you're becoming unstable, will use your vulnerability against you later when it serves them. The mystical experience is sacred, and what's sacred must be protected from profanity, which literally means outside the temple. When you cast pearls before swine, as the old saying goes, they don't appreciate the pearl. They trample them in the mud and then turn on you for not giving them something they can actually use, like food or entertainment. Your mystical experiences are pearls of immeasurable value. They're glimpses beyond the veil, direct encounters with reality, unfiltered by the conceptual mind. And most people cannot comprehend this because they're still entirely identified with the conceptual mind. They're still living in the matrix of thoughts and beliefs and social conditioning. And you're trying to tell them about something that exists beyond all of that. They literally do not have the framework to understand what you're saying. I once knew someone who had a profound awakening experience during meditation, a complete dissolution of the separate self, emerging with infinite consciousness that lasted for hours. And in his excitement, he told his family about it at dinner that evening. His brother, a successful businessman, literally laughed and said it sounded like he'd had a stroke and should probably get his brain checked. His mother became worried and started asking if he was eating enough, sleeping enough, whether something was wrong at work. His father changed the subject entirely. Not one person in that room could could meet him in the reality of what he'd experienced, and he learned a painful but valuable lesson that night. The deepest experiences must be kept in silence, shared only with those rare individuals who have the consciousness to understand, or kept entirely to yourself as a private treasure that need no external validation. The second thing you must never reveal is your actual level of awareness about other people's unconscious patterns. When you wake up, you begin to see things that others cannot see about themselves. You see their defense mechanisms operating in real time. You see their ego strategies, their manipulation, their projection, their shadow material that they're completely blind to. You see the real motivations beneath their stated reason. You see the patterns they repeat endlessly while believing each time is different. And it can be incredibly tempting to point these things out, especially with people you care about, especially when you believe that helping them see their pattern would help them suffer less. But this is almost always a terrible mistake. When you point out someone's unconscious pattern, even gently, even with the best intentions, what you're really doing is threatening their entire psychological structure. You're essentially saying the story you tell yourself about who you are and why you do what you do is false, and I can see through. And the ego cannot tolerate this. The ego will defend itself with everything it has. The person will not thank you for your insight. They will attack you, call you judgmental, accuse you of thinking you're better than them, twist your word, or simply cut you out of their life, because what you're offering isn't actually helpful to someone who isn't ready to see. It's threatening, destabilizing, intolerable. Think of it this way. Imagine someone is living in a house they've built, and you come along and say, your house is built on sand. The foundation is crumbling, the walls are about to collapse. Even if this is absolutely true, even if you can see it clearly, and they cannot, telling them this doesn't help. They've invested everything in that house. Their identity is tied to that house. They cannot afford to believe you, because then they'd have to face something terrifying. So instead, they decide you're the problem. You're negative, you're judgmental, you're trying to tear them down. Your awareness becomes the enemy rather than the ally you intended it to be. The awakened person learns to see everything but say very little. You observe people's patterns with compassion and understanding. You hold space for them without trying to fix or change or enlighten them. And you keep your observations to yourself unless someone specifically asks for your insight and demonstrates they're genuinely ready to hear it. And even then, you offer it carefully, gently, with immense respect for how difficult it is to see one's own shadow. Your awareness is for you, not for broadcasting to others who haven't asked for it and aren't ready to receive. The third thing you must never reveal is the specific practices and technique that have worked for your awakening. This might seem counterintuitive because we often think sharing what works for us will help others. But here's what actually happens. When you tell people the specific practices that transformed you, they either dismiss them as too simple to be effective, or they try them briefly without real commitment and then declare they don't work. Or, worst of all, they use your practices against, turning them into weapons of judgment. They'll say things like, I thought you meditated every day. Why are you still getting upset? I thought you were so enlightened. Why do you still have problems? They'll use your spiritual tools as evidence of your hypocrisy or failure, because people love nothing more than watching someone who claims to be spiritually advanced reveal their humanity. But there's something even more important here. Your spiritual practices are personal, intimate, sacred. They're the methods through which you commune with the deepest part of yourself, with reality itself. And when you make them public, when you turn them into topics of casual conversation, something precious is lost. They become performance rather than practice. They become something you do to maintain an image rather than something you do for genuine transformation. The spiritual path is not a public demonstration. It's a private journey into the depths of your own being. There's an old tradition in mystery school and esoteric teaching of keeping the practices secret. not
seeds
because
of doubt
there's
in your
anything
own
magical
mind
or
and
special
siphons
about
away
the
the energy
secrecy
you
itself,
need to
but
make it
because
happen.
secrecy
There's
protects
also
the
something
sacred
more
from being
subtle at
profaned,
play.
protects your
When you tell
practice
people
from
your
becoming
plans, you get a
contaminated
little
by
hit
other
of
people's
satisfaction,
opinions
a
and
taste of what it
judgments
would
and
feel like
projection.
to have
When you tell
already
someone you
accomplished
meditate
it.
for 2
Your
hours
brain
every
releases
morning,
the
suddenly
same
you're
chemicals
accountable
as if
to
you'd
their
actually
idea
done
of what
it,
that should
which can
produce in
reduce
you.
your
You're being
motivation
measured
to
against
follow
their
through.
expectation, and this
You've
subtle
already
pressure
gotten the social
actually
reward
interferes
just
with
by
the practice
talking.
itself, makes
A
it
truly
harder to
awakened
simply be
person
present with what is
learns to
without
hold
trying
their
to produce
visions in
results that will
sacred
validate your
silence.
practice to others.
They
The wise
keep their
practitioner
plans
keeps their
private,
practices
their
private.
goals
They don't announce what
protected,
they're doing
and their
or how long
dreams
they've been
close
doing
to
it
their
or what
chest.
results they're getting.
They don't
simply
announce
do
what
the
they're
work
going
in
to
silence.
do.
Lets the
They
transformation
just
speak
do
for
it.
itself through how they show
Quietly,
up in the world, and
consistently,
refuse to
without
turn their
needing
sacred
external
practices into
validation.
social currency or
Then when the
topics
goal
for
is
casual
achieved
discussion.
and
The
the
fourth
vision
thing
has
you must never reveal
manifested,
is your
they let
plans
it
and
become
goals before
visible.
they've manifested.
By
This
then,
is
it doesn't
absolutely
matter
critical,
what
and
anyone
almost
thinks,
everyone gets this
because
wrong.
it's
When you have a
already
vision
real.
for your life, when you
It's
see
no
clearly
longer
what you want to
vulnerable to
create or
doubt
who
or
you want to
fear.
become or what path you want
The
to
fifth
follow,
thing
there's
you
a
must
tremendous
never
temptation
reveal
to
is
tell
the
people
true
about.
source of
You want
your
to share
peace
your
and
excitement,
power,
test your idea,
especially
get
if that
feedback,
source is
receive
internal.
encouragement. But what actually happens
When you
when you
awaken
reveal your plans
spiritually, you
prematurely is
discover
that
an
other people's
extraordinary
doubt and
source
fear
of
and
stability
projection
within
begin to
yourself
contaminate
that
your
doesn't
vision
depend
before
on
it's had time
external
to take root and grow
circumstances.
strong. Your
You're no
unmanifested
longer at
dreams
the
are like
mercy of
seeds
life's
that have just
ups
been
and
planted.
downs
They're
or
vulnerable,
other
fragile,
people's
still
approval.
gathering energy and
You've
strength
found
beneath the
something
surface. And when
real
you
and
expose them too
unshakable
early to other
inside.
people's consciousness,
This is the
especially
most
to people who
valuable
are asleep, who are
discovery
living
you'll
small,
ever
who are
make.
trapped in limited
But
thinking,
if you
their
try
doubt
to
becomes
explain
like
it to
poison
people
that
who are
seeps into
still
the soil.
desperately
Even
seeking
well-meaning
peace
people,
externally,
especially
the
well-meaning
response
people,
will
will
almost
accidentally
always
kill
be
your dream
hostile.
with their concern.
They
They'll say
can't
things
understand
like, "Are you
someone who
sure
has
that's
found it
realistic? Have you
internally.
thought about
It
what could
threatens
go
their
wrong? What if
entire
it doesn't work
worldview.
out? Don't you think
It
you should be
suggests
more
that all
practical?"
their
And all of
striving
this,
and
even when it
achieving might
comes
be
from love, plants
unnecessary,
seeds of doubt
and
in
they
your
can't
mind. It makes you
tolerate
question
that
yourself. It
possibility.
siphons away the
So they
energy
will
and
attack your
certainty
peace.
that you need to
They'll
actually
try to
manifest
disturb it
what
and
you're
test
envisioning.
if
But
it's
there's
real
something
by
even
creating
more subtle
chaos
happening.
around
When you
you.
tell people your
They'll
plan,
mock
you
your
get a little hit
contentment
of
as
satisfaction, a little
complacency or
taste of what it
delusion.
would feel
I
like to have
remember
already
someone who found
accomplished the
genuine
thing. Your
inner
brain
peace
releases
after
the same
years of
chemicals
seeking.
it would release
He
if you'd
simply
actually done it.
radiated
And this
a
can
quiet
actually reduce your
contentment.
motivation
His
to
family
follow
found
through.
this
You've already received the
infuriating.
social
They
reward,
would
the
create
acknowledgement,
drama
the
and then
recognition
get
just
angry
from
when he
talking
wouldn't
about
get
it. So why
upset.
do the hard
So
work of
guard these
actually
things
making it
carefully.
happen? The
Protect
awakened
your
person
practice,
learns to
your
hold their
plans,
vision
and
in
your
sacred
peace.
silence. They
Let your
keep their
results
plans
speak for
private, their
themselves.
goals protected,
Have
their
you ever
dream
felt
close
at
to their
peace,
chest. They don't
truly
announce what they're
content,
going to do.
only
They
to
simply
have
do it
someone
quietly,
criticize you for
consistently,
it?
without fanfare
They say
or
you should be
external
more anxious
validation. And
about
then,
your
when the thing
future,
is done, when
more
the vision
worried
has
about
manifested,
money,
when the
more
goal has been
concerned
achieved,
about
only
what
then
others
do they
think.
allow it to become
It's
visible
strange,
to
isn't
others.
it?
But by then,
Your
it doesn't
peace
matter
somehow
what anyone
becomes an
thinks because it's
accusation
already
against
real.
their
It's no longer
anxiety.
vulnerable to
They
other
can't seem
people's
to
doubt or
rest
fear
until
or
they've either
limited faith.
shattered
The fifth
your
thing
peace
you must never
or driven
reveal
you
is the
away.
true source of
Over
your peace
time, you
and
might
power,
learn to
especially
hide it.
if that source
You
is
learn to put
internal
on a
rather
show,
than external.
performing
When you
just
wake up
enough
spiritually,
concern,
you discover
just enough
something
worry,
extraordinary. You
just
find a
enough
source of
ambition
peace
to
and
make
power
people
and
leave you
stability
alone.
within
But
yourself
privately,
that doesn't depend
you hold
on
on to
external
that inner peace
circumstances.
you've
You're no
worked so
longer
hard to
at the mercy
find.
of whether
This,
things
my
are going
friends,
well
is
or
the
bad.
art
You're
of
no
the
longer
awakened
desperately
person.
dependent
You
on
maintain
other
your
people's
inner
approval
peace,
or
your inner
validation.
power,
You've found
your inner
something
knowing,
real
but you
inside,
don't
something
advertise
unshakable,
it.
something that
You don't
sustains
need to
you
explain
regardless
where
of
it
what's
comes
happening
from or
externally.
how
And
you
this is
found
the
it.
most valuable discovery
simply
you'll ever
embody
make. But
it
if you reveal this to
quietly.
people, if you try to
And
explain
believe me,
that you don't need what
those
they
who
need,
have have
that you
eyes
found
to see
something
will
there,
recognize
still
it
desperately
without you
seeking,
having
the
to say
response
a word.
will almost always be
As for
hostile.
those
People who are
don't
still
have
looking for
eyes to
peace
see,
and power and
they'll
validation
never
externally cannot
understand,
understand
no
someone
matter
who's
how
found
many
it
times you
internally. It
explain.
doesn't compute. It
So why
threatens their
waste your
entire
energy?
worldview. It
So what
suggests
does
that
living
everything
with
they're
this
doing,
kind of
all that's
wisdom
striving
actually
and
look like
achieving
in the
and
real
accumulating
world?
and
It
performing
means you
might
walk
be
through life
unnecessary,
with
and they cannot
secrets,
tolerate
not
this possibility.
deceptive
So
secrets,
they will attack
but
your
sacred
peace. They'll
ones.
try to disturb
You
it.
hold
They'll
your
test
most
whether it's real
profound
by
mystical
creating chaos others around. They'll mock your contentment as complacency or delusion. They'll accuse you of not caring enough or not being ambitious enough or settling for less, because your internal source of peace is an implicit judgment on their external seeking, even though you never intended it that way. I remember someone who had found genuine inner peace after years of seeking. He wasn't trying to convert anyone or prove anything. He simply radiated a quiet contentment that required nothing from anyone, and his family found this absolutely infuriating. They would create drama and conflict and then get angry when he wouldn't get upset. They would criticize him for not being more anxious about his future, more worried about his finances, more concerned about what people thought. His peace became an accusation against their anxiety, and they couldn't rest until they'd either destroyed his peace or driven him away. He eventually learned to hide his inner state, to perform just enough concern and worry and ambition that people would leave him alone while privately maintaining the inner peace he'd found. This is the art of the awakened person. You maintain your inner peace, your inner power, your inner knowing, but you don't advertise it. You don't explain where it comes from or how you found it. You simply embody it quietly, and those who have eyes to see will recognize it without you having to say a word. Those who don't have eyes to see will never understand, no matter how much you explain. So why waste your energy trying? So here's what living with this wisdom actually looks like. You walk through the world with secret, not deceptive secret, but sacred secret. You hold your mystical experiences close to your heart, sharing them only with those rare souls who have the consciousness to understand. You see people's unconscious patterns clearly, but keep that seeing to yourself, offering insight only when genuinely asked, and only to those genuinely ready. You maintain your spiritual practices in private, refusing to turn them into performance or social currency. You hold your dreams and vision in silence until they've manifested into reality, and you keep the source of your peace hidden, letting people wonder why you're different but never fully explain it. This is not dishonesty. This is protection of the sacred. This is wisdom born from understanding that the profane world, the unconscious masses, the sleeping collective, they cannot recognize what's sacred. They cannot appreciate what's precious. And if you offer them your pearls, they will trample them in the mud and then attack you for not giving them something more useful to their sleeping state. Does this mean you become completely closed off, that you never share anything with anyone? No, of course not. What it means is that you become extraordinarily discerning about what you share and with whom. You look for those rare individuals who have earned the right to hear your truth, who have demonstrated through their own work and awareness that they can meet you in that deeper place. And with these people, you can be completely open, completely transparent, completely yourself. But these people are rare, incredibly rare. And until you find them, you protect what's precious, you guard what's safe, you keep your deepest truth in silence. The awakened person appears ordinary to ordinary people. They don't walk around announcing their enlightenment or advertising their awareness. They blend in, they participate in normal life, they engage with people at whatever level those people can engage. But beneath the surface, they're holding something vast and profound that most people will never see, never understand, never even suspect is there. And this is not superiority or arrogance. This is simply recognition that consciousness cannot be forced on those who are not ready, that pearls are wasted on those who cannot recognize their value, and that some things are too precious to be exposed to the unconscious world. So guard your spiritual experiences, protect your awareness of others' patterns, keep your practices private, hold your dreams in silence until they manifest, and never reveal the true source of your peace to those who are still seeking it externally. Not because you're better than them, not because you don't care about them, but because you understand something they don't yet understand, that the sacred must be protected from the profane, that not everything true needs to be spoken, and that silence is often far more powerful than any word could ever be. This is the wisdom of the awakened, not to broadcast their awakening, but to embody it quietly, to live it fully, and to let those who are ready discover it in their own time, in their own way, without you having to say a single word.